So the Hungarians have finally made it into War Thunder. I'm sure someone out there is incredibly happy about this. However, they do bring with them a JAS-39 Gripen, which means now we have 3 Gripens in the game, and of course if you follow my content, you'll know that I think the Gripen is probably the best plane in the game right now, at least when it comes to SB. However, the Italian or the Hungarian Gripen in the Italian tech tree is a little bit special, and the reason for that is because it gets a different matchmaker essentially for Sim, and as we all know, the matchmaker and Sim is a little bit different to RB. I explain this in almost every one of my videos. However, I'm just going to go over it really quickly. You do have set teams. It's not like you'll never have America and China on the same team, for instance, and in most cases, or America and Russia. So it's always America, the US, and Israel sort of on one team against, in most cases, Germany, China and Russia, and then you have the nations like Japan, Italy, France, and the other one, Sweden, which can always like sort of go on either side of the match. Now the problem is, if you have France, with the Mirage being getting a buff to the missiles now, the Mirage just being a very good sort of platform in the game anyway, Sweden having the Gripen, and with the UK also having the Gripen, when you get into the matchmaker where it's the US, Britain, Israel, alongside France and Sweden, you get into one of these matchmakers where it doesn't really leave a lot of options for the red side in these types of games, just because the way the flanker works in Sim is not as good as in RB, because of the situational awareness is a lot harder to combine with the avionics on the Russian planes. It does kind of it does take its toll, and this is why having something like the Gripen on the red side is such an advantage, or it's such a help, I should say, because it just kind of has it all, right? It has the avionics, it has the radar, and it also has, in my opinion, the best flight model in the game, at least when it comes to like close range, sort of within visual range fighting. It also gets the best missiles, which is the AIM-9M for Sim, just because they're absolutely invisible, because obviously they're smokeless, there are no markers in Sim or anything like that. You get a good modernized Western RWR, which tells you exactly what's locking you up and how far away it is, which is something that the Russians don't get. However, the Russians have had a buff to their RWR ever since the Alpha Strike patch, which I'll be making a video on as well, which is something that I've been hoping for. I've been asking for something like this for so long for the Russian planes, because I think it's kind of what's holding them back. It's still not on the same level that the Western RWR is on, but I'll talk a little bit more on it when I do make a video about it. But the Gripen kind of just has it all. It has the flight performance, it has the avionics, and it just works. It's a very good stable platform. Even the cockpit visibility is absolutely excellent, apart from that like bar over the canopy there. By the way, if you are playing on red side as Italy against a team, you know, like Sweden, Britain, 2 nations that have the Gripen, you are going to get team killed quite a lot as well. So I do end up getting team killed twice in this match as well, unfortunately. However, this is just something that you're just going to sort of end up having to deal with this plane. It's the price you pay. It's the same thing when you fly the F-16 MOU, obviously, because that always goes on the red side against the US. So it's just something that's going to happen. It's the price you pay for competent aircraft, essentially, on the incompetent side. So I've already made 2 videos where I just whinge about how good the Gripen is, how I think it should be nerfed, and if it's realistic or not, and blah blah blah. I'm not going to do that this video, because it'll just spark another shitstorm in the comments, but it actually, the opposite, I'm going to sort of show you with the gameplay here how easy it is to actually play this thing. And if you are a player that sort of, you think you're kind of, you know, if you're struggling with Sim, you think you may not be that good at the game mode or whatever, you're still learning or whatever. I mean, we're all learning at the end of the day, after 3,000 hours, still learning things. It is a very easy plane to play. And as you can see in the gameplay here, okay, now I'm kind of, I've got behind an F-16 here, but at the end of the day, all I'm really doing is I'm spotting something on radar, I lock them in TWS so they don't even get like a full-on, you know, lock tone on their RWR or something like that. Here's the second team kill, by the way. And I just fly towards them, fire off the M9M, which they can't see, and I end up getting the kill. And this is not like we're playing against some incompetent Russian planes that don't have any avionics or anything. I mean, we're on the Russian side. We are playing against the Americans here, against F-16s, against F-15s, some of the best aircraft in the game at this kind of battle rating. And it's just easy, you know, like nothing, it's not even a challenge, and you're going to see this at the end with the final score as well. But this is the majority of what I'm doing in this gameplay here, and this is the majority of your experience when you do fly the Gripen. You don't even, skill is, I'm not saying this to have a go at like Gripen pilots, whatever. I actually do I've started to kind of enjoy flying this thing now a little bit more, but skill really isn't required to get a good score in this thing, and that's always kind of been my complaint about this thing a little bit. But at the end of the day, if you're someone like a casual or something, you don't have like thousands of hours in the game, or you don't have that much time to play in the week, it's just nice to have an aircraft that way. You can just come home from work, you know, you're a little bit stressed, you can lean back on the couch, you don't have to lean forwards, you don't have to sweat your balls off in order to help your team out. And it's nice to have an aircraft like that. And so in that case, it's kind of a blessing, but then, you know, if you do have someone that's sweating, it is also kind of a curse for everyone that has to go against it. And that is kind of where the, you know, the root of all of my previous complaints about this thing sort of come from, right? One of the main points obviously being the fact that it has like almost basically unlimited flares. It's 720, so you can just tap that button away. They did nerf them pretty recently, and they have like a longer sort of heat up time now, so that by the time they're like fully heated up, they are now further away from the aircraft, which means that missiles with the reduced FOV sort of IRCCM system, like the R73, the Magic and whatever, they are going to be more effective against this thing at closer ranges now. And you do notice that, but at the end of the day, if the guy, you know, if you're in a Gripen and you're just spamming out flares all the time, it's going to be very difficult to sort of get a lock in the first place, unless you have the radar sort of slaving. But even then, it can be a little bit iffy. What they also did is they doubled the amount of flares that get deployed per pop. So if you have the BOL pods, previously it was only 2 flares, I believe. Now it's actually 4 per pop. So this obviously reduces your the amount of times that you can sort of just keep flaring. However, it sort of reduces it from 12 minutes down to 6 minutes of full deployment on the periodic flare thing, right? So like that is, yes, it's reduced the time by half, but you can still just deploy flares for like 6 minutes straight in a fight, and you're going to be pretty much fine. Coupled with the low heat signature that the engine has on this thing, because obviously it has the engine out of the F-18, which is a very sort of it's a smaller engine. It doesn't produce as much heat as something like an F-15 or an F-16 engine. It can be, especially in head-ons, a lot of the time. I don't know if the game bugs out or something, but sometimes like when you're in a head-on with a Gripen, it can, you have to get like within like a kilometer or something for the missile to actually like for you to get a lock tone. It's in some cases, not all the time. This is why I think like I'm not sure if this is a bug or not, but sometimes the heat signature on the Gripen is a little bit sort of iffy. And obviously if you're in the Gripen, that will work to your advantage. If you're unsure about like anything I just said about flares, by the way, and you're flying a Gripen, just basically just deploy the flares whenever, right? Just keep tapping that button and you'll be fine. By the way, if you are looking for control setups for Sim, I do have a video on how to make a full realistic controller setup as well, with full real controls. You can check that out on my channel. Also, if you're looking for a sim-orientated Discord server, my one is linked in the description. We're almost, I think we're like a little bit over 400 members now, and it's pretty active as well. We've got people in voice chat like almost every day and stuff. So if you're looking for people to play with, or just, like different control setups as well, like keyboard setup, we have the BLK files ready to download in there as well. It's just it's a, which I'm trying to sort of build like a little nice little sim community there with the Discord, just so we can always find people to play with, because obviously Sim isn't the most populated game mode in the world. We all know that, and we kind of have to kind of stick together, as cringy as that sounds. But yeah, if you're interested in that kind of stuff, it's linked in the description. We'd love to have you. Now, for all of the praise that I've given the Gripen so far, with it being a very, very good within visual range fighter, probably the best within visual range fighter at top tier right now, it is also worth mentioning that Gaijin have basically confirmed that the next update in June, I think, is going to bring AMRAAMs. So that's Fox-3 active radar guided missiles, AMRAAMs, R-77s, Micah missiles, and if these missiles actually end up being effective, with decent range, decent maneuverability, and they crucially get rid of multipathing or reduce it in some sort of effective, or in some sort of way that makes these new types of missiles effective, then we could see a shift in the meta away from the Gripen's favour. Now, I don't think the Gripen's ever going to be like really forgotten, but it's a plane that sort of, it does lose a little. It's a very fast plane, but it doesn't have like the same sort of oomph up at altitude that something like an F-15 or an F-16 has, or like a flanker or something. So that is something that is worth mentioning, worth considering, especially if you don't even have Italy grinded out now. It might take you a couple months before you actually get to the Gripen, and at the point, by the time you get to it, AMRAAMs might be a thing, and then the Gripen, the meta's like kind of shifted again. So I think the Gripen's always going to be a plane worth playing, but also we saw on the that dev server test that they had a couple weeks ago, where we were testing out the Fox-3 missiles. The Gripen can't take the AMRAAMs, well, I think it was the Derby missiles or whatever the British one had. It can't take the missiles with the BOL pods. So if it does take active radar guided missiles, there's a good chance that you're not going to be able to take the BOL pods, which means you are limited to 80 flares. Okay, now they are large caliber flares. They deploy 2 at a time. which gives you a total of 40 pops, and this is what I did in my last Gripen video as well. I put the radar missiles on and dealt with that. It's still a very, very good platform, obviously, but it is just something that is definitely worth considering if you're thinking about grinding out this plane from, you know, from the bottom of the tech tree, essentially. Something you got to think about when you're actually running away from people in the Gripen is it does like to overspeed. It is airframe limited rather than engine limited, and I just ended up sort of ripping one of the wings off because I oversped it. Surprisingly, though, I did manage to get back to base and actually managed to land it in dampening mode, mind you, with a single wing attached. So yeah, that is still something that you can do in the Gripen. It's one of those planes that can definitely do it. As you can see here, one of the wings is definitely missing. Like I said, it's a very user-friendly plane. It's not hard to fly at all. Put dampening mode in, and it's going to be very hard to sort of, you know, lose control of the plane in that sense. Anyway, that was the end of the match. Final score was 20-3, with 2 of those obviously being team kills, and one of those times I was just, it was a really stupid decision that I strategically left out of the video. Something I also strategically elected to not show in the video is me getting a team kill. So I would have probably gotten a little bit more money, probably around 200k. I ended up getting 160k for just over an hour of playtime with 33,000 RP. So yeah, I mean, the multiplier on this isn't anything special. It's just it's pretty average. Like I said, guys, the Discord is in the description if you're interested in that kind of stuff, like control setups and whatever. I do have a video up for that on my channel. Other than that, guys, thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Cheers.